Look, let's be honest with each other, mate. This whole awakening journey, it's not all bliss and floating on clouds. Rubbish. That's what they sell you. The first thing you actually feel is lonely. It starts slowly, doesn't it? You're at a party, or maybe just at work, and you suddenly realize you cannot stand the small talk anymore. It feels like static. It feels utterly meaningless. You look at your old friends, people you've known for years, and it's like they're still, well, asleep. They're reciting lines from a script you no longer have. They're worried about things that suddenly seem completely trivial. You feel like you're the only one who has woken up in the middle of the movie and seen the matrix, seen the wires holding everything up, and you can't unsee it. This is what I call the solitude of clarity. It's a strange paradox. On one hand, you feel this incredible sense of freedom. You're finally off the hamster wheel. You're no longer buying into the societal nonsense. You feel authentic, maybe for the first time. But on the other hand, you are completely, profoundly isolated. You're standing alone. This is why so many people on this path find themselves single, sometimes for years. It's not that you can't find love. It's that you can no longer tolerate fakery. You would rather be alone than settle for a relationship that feels like a lie, like a performance just to not be by yourself. But that validation, that feeling of I'm right to be alone, it only gets you so far. After a while, the silence gets loud. You start to ask, great, I'm awake. Now what? So, is this it? Is this the price? Is loneliness a life sentence for seeing the truth? Is the cost of clarity just permanent isolation? No. The truth is you're not lonely just because you're different. You're lonely because you have finally refused to play a game that everyone else is still being forced to play. That game that everyone else is still being forced to play, it has a name. I just call it the ego's transactions. See, most social relationships, when you really strip them back and look at them, they're not connections. Not really. They are unwritten contracts. They are silent negotiations. They are a series of trades. The contract usually reads something like this: I will be your friend if you reinforce the image I have of myself. I will validate you if you agree to validate me. I will accept you into my group if you agree to dislike the same people we dislike. I will love you if you promise to fill this emptiness inside me, this void I can't stand to look at. You have to promise to be my distraction. It is a world built entirely on conditional acceptance. That's the game. Everyone is trading. They are trading their quiet compliance for a sense of security. They are trading their authenticity for a feeling of belonging. Why? Why do we do this? Because most people, mate, are absolutely terrified of who they would be without that external validation. They are terrified of their own emptiness. They've spent their entire lives building an identity, this thing we call the ego, that needs to be constantly propped up by others. It's like a leaky tire. It needs everyone else to keep pumping air into it 24/7 just so it can feel real for a moment. And then you came along. You, in your awakening, are the person who just put the air pump down. You've stopped offering the trade. You are no longer willing to laugh at the joke that isn't funny. You are no longer willing to lie to someone just to make them feel comfortable. You are no longer willing to perform, to wear the mask, to recite the script, just to get a scrap of love or acceptance that you now know isn't even real. So, what happens? The transaction breaks down. You aren't lonely, mate. You're just unemployed. You're no longer a reliable actor in their play. You've gone off script. And let me tell you, nothing makes the rest of the cast more uncomfortable, more angry, than an actor who suddenly starts speaking the truth in the middle of the performance. It exposes the whole thing as a sham. It holds a mirror up to them, and they hate what they see. This is why you feel so separate. It's not because you are broken. It's not because you are unlovable or weird. It's the complete opposite. You're not housed because you're no longer willing to live in a house made of paper. You are simply no longer interested in the game. You're looking for something real. And that is exactly why you feel so bloody lost. So, okay, that explains it. You've quit the game. That explains the isolation from others. But it doesn't explain the pain inside, does it? It doesn't explain why being real sometimes just feels empty. Why is there still this ache? This is where we need to bring in the master. Because there is a second, more subtle trap, a psychological trap that Alan Watts pointed out. And it's one that almost every awakened person falls right into. And this trap, mate, is the real guts of the issue. This is the why you came here for. Alan Watts would say that the deepest, most painful part of your loneliness isn't coming from the outside world. It's not just the game you quit. It's coming from the inside. It's coming from the one thing you thought you'd gotten rid of, your own ego. I know. You're thinking, no, I've transcended my ego. That's the whole point. That's the trap. You haven't transcended it. You've just given it a new, more fashionable outfit. You've created what we call the spiritual ego. This is where other channels get thin. This is where they fail you. They'll give you a lovely poem about being a river or floating like a cloud. It sounds beautiful. It feels good for 3 minutes. But it doesn't explain the ache, does it? It doesn't give you the why or the how. So, let's go deeper. Let's use the actual psychological argument Watts used, not just a soothing metaphor. Think of your conscious awareness. When you first awaken, that awareness is like a high-powered spotlight. For the first time, you're really paying attention. You're not just passively absorbing the world, you're observing it. And that spotlight is incredibly bright. It cuts through all the societal bullshit. You see the game, the transactions, the masks with perfect, painful clarity. But what is the fundamental problem with a spotlight? By its very nature, it creates a very, very small circle of intense light. And in doing so, it creates massive, harsh, dark shadows all around it. When you're in spotlight mode, you are hyper-focused. You're focused on your clarity, your insights, your pain, your path. You become trapped inside that tiny, bright circle of your own self-awareness. You're so busy seeing the truth that you've blinded yourself to everything outside your own being. And this, mate, is the master trap, the spiritual ego. You successfully let go of the old ego, the one that defined itself by its job title, or its car, or its bank account. You saw through that game. Fantastic. But the ego is sneaky. It's a survivor. It just latches onto this new, better identity. It creates a brand new definition for itself. I am an awakened soul. I am different. I am one of the few who sees. I am deeper than everyone else. And this is the poison. Because what does this new ego do? It starts to use your loneliness. It stops being a symptom and it becomes a trophy. You become proud of your isolation. You wear it like a badge of honor. Look at me walking alone. It proves how authentic I am. Look at them, the sleeping masses. I'm better than that. You start clinging to your loneliness because it's the very thing that proves your new identity is real. You are using your solitude as a shield. And that is why you cannot truly connect. How can you connect with anyone else when you are secretly, fundamentally invested in being different from them? How can you find real love when you're using your singleness as proof of your spiritual superiority? You've stopped playing the social game, only to start playing an even more subtle spiritual game against yourself. You're stuck. So, be honest, and you can drop it in the comments, because we're all mates here. Have you ever noticed yourself feeling proud of your loneliness, even while it's hurting you? Have you been using your awakening as a shield to keep the sleeping world out? That's the trap. You're stuck in spotlight mode inside a shield of your own making. So, how do you get out? How do you put the shield down without getting hurt? How do you turn that narrow, isolating spotlight into what Alan Watts was really talking about? The floodlight that illuminates everything all at once without creating any shadows? Right. So that is the how-to part. This is the applied Alan Watts. This is what you do when you're sick and tired of being told to just be like water or float like a cloud. But you feel like you're stuck in a concrete box. This is where those other poetic videos go thin. Mate, they give you the what, but they never ever give you the how. They tell you to let go, but they don't tell you how to loosen your grip when you're clinging on for dear life. So let's get practical. There are 3 real techniques here. The first one is the hardest, because it's a non-step. You must stop trying so hard to connect. This is the core of that de-escalation philosophy from the report. Let's be blunt. The reason you can't find love, the reason you can't find your tribe, is because you are searching for it. You are hunting for another awakened soul. You're on a spiritual quest, scanning the horizon. But what is that really? When you look at it, it's just another transaction. You've just written a new spiritual shopping list. The old list was, must be tall, must have a good job, must be attractive. The new list is, must be awakened, must understand my trauma, must hate small talk, must have read Alan Watts. You're still demanding something from the world. You're still in that ego transaction mode we talked about. You're still trying to find someone to fix your loneliness. The true Alan Watts move. Stop searching. Stop. The antidote to searching is not finding. The antidote to searching is radiating. Stop trying to find the right person and start becoming the right person. Stop scanning the crowd for another spotlight and just be the lighthouse. Think about it. A lighthouse doesn't run up and down the coastline looking for boats to save. It just stands there. It roots itself to the rock, and it shines. It radiates its own light, and the boats find it. Okay, you say, but how do I shine? How do I radiate if I feel empty? This is technique 2, the full cup principle. Again, the self-help industry gets this wrong. They tell you you can't pour from an empty cup, so you must fill your cup with self-care, bubble baths, and positive affirmations, which is just more doing, more striving, more fixing. Watts would have a good laugh at that. Filling your cup, in his world, does not mean self-improvement. Self-improvement is just the bloody ego trying to fix itself again, the very thing we're trying to stop. Filling your cup means self-acceptance. And the most practical, real-world way to do that, you find your play. Yes, play. What is the thing you do? Maybe you did it as a child, or you do it now, where time just vanishes. Is it painting? Is it writing code? Is it gardening? Is it getting lost in a piece of music, hiking a mountain, working on an engine, or writing a story? That's your play. It's the one activity where the anxious, striving, lonely, you simply dissolves. You're not trying to be good at it. You are just doing it. You are in it. You are one with the activity. That is a full cup. When you are totally absorbed in your play, you are not needing anything from anyone. You are not lacking. You are, in that moment, completely whole. And that energy, the energy of a human being who is genuinely, joyfully playing, that is the most magnetic force in the universe. That is what radiating feels like. People are drawn to that. Real people. Other full cups. They aren't drawn to your need to be connected. They are drawn to your completeness. This brings us to technique 3. You've stopped searching. You're busy playing. You're radiating. This is how you finally make the shift from the spotlight to the floodlight. You start to realize that true connection isn't about finding that 1 in a million diamond in the rough who is exactly as awakened as you are. That's the spiritual ego's fantasy. That's the shield. True connection, the floodlight state, is the ability to see the Buddha nature, the divine spark, the universe, whatever you want to call it, in everyone. Yes, even in the sleepers, even in your old friends who are still obsessed with small talk, even in your boss who is completely lost in the game. You see, the spotlight, your spiritual ego judges them. It says, they are not worthy of my connection. The floodlight just sees them. It sees their humanity. It sees that their game, their masks, are just a product of their own fear, their own conditioning. And when you can truly see that, you don't feel superior anymore. You don't feel angry. You feel compassion. You can smile at their game without being in it. You can love them as they are while they are still performing, because you know that performance is not who they are. You are no longer needing them to wake up to validate you. You're no longer the lonely awakened one. You're just the awake one. When you do this, you no longer need someone to validate your awakening. You become the validation. And that brings us to the final liberating truth. This is the big absolution, mate. This is the permission you've been waiting for. That loneliness you've been feeling, that deep aching solitude that we talked about right at the start, it is not a punishment. It is not a cosmic error. It is not a sign that you have failed the test or that you're doing awakening wrong. It is a purification. It is a necessary profound, and absolutely essential detox. Think about it. Your life, your cup, was cluttered for decades. It was filled to the brim with all that social rubbish we talked about, all the fake transactions, the needy relationships, the conditional love, the masks, the performances, the small talk. It was a complete mess. The awakening is the moment the universe finally came in and did a clean sweep. It tossed all of that junk out. It cleared the house. And what are you left with? An empty cup. And that emptiness feels vast. It feels terrifyingly silent. It feels lonely. Of course it does. You're used to the clutter, but it's not empty in a bad way. It is clear. It is open. It is a space that has finally been made so that you have room to fill it with something real, something that is actually yours. So let's reframe this entire experience right here and now. This is the one thing I want you to take away. You didn't lose your friends. You graduated. You didn't fail at love or discover you're unlovable. You simply stopped accepting transactions. You raised your standards from need to connection. You stopped settling for scraps. The deep, aching loneliness you've been feeling is not the disease. It is the symptom of the cure. It is the proof that you are healing. It's the strange, uncomfortable ache of a spiritual muscle that is growing stronger, not the sharp pain of an injury. The truth is, you were never really alone in the first place. You just are. You are standing in that quiet, sacred, and admittedly uncomfortable space. The space between the old self you finally let go of and the new, authentic self you are still in the process of becoming. You're in the waiting room, and that is exactly where you are supposed to be. If this reframe, just hearing that this is a process and not a failure, helped you feel even a little bit lighter, do me a solid and just tap that like button. It genuinely lets me know that we're on the right track together with this stuff. And if you can think of one person, just one person, you know, who is walking alone right now and looks like they're carrying the weight of the world, be a good mate. Share this video with them. They might just need this permission to stop fighting and to start radiating. Thanks for sitting with me on this one. I'll see you in the next one.